Hello, it's Anne Marie with AM Astro, and we are looking at the Capricorn full moon on 21st. At 29 degrees Capricorn Cancer, which set for Washington, D.C., falls conjunct the ascendant-descendant line. So it's a theme of us versus the other. And there are connections to a number of planets. I'm going to look at the traditional planets first. Mars, here in a sextile in Gemini, having just, entered the 11th house. So this is, if you think about government, if you think about mundane astrology, the three branches of government are, you have the judicial branch, you have the executive branch, and you have the legislative branch. So we have Mars entering the legislative branch, which is Congress. But it could also be the ones making the rules, the ones drawing up the playbook. Jupiter is here and is in detriment. But not connect, well, it actually is a semi-square. Yeah, it isn't a semi-square. So there's an awareness of issues. The semi-square is when you're beginning to see there's a problem.
Unknown caller.
Okay, hang on just a second. Well, I guess that was a spam call. Sorry about that. So, but it's closing in. Okay, so yeah, so it's a semi-square that's closing in on the sun. So that's closing. So you're fully aware of all the problems, and now you're questioning whether or not there's another way. You're having the doubts have entered now, and you're questioning whether or not you're fully evolved with this new process to bring it all the way to fruition. And you're starting to think, is there another way that I need to work? The other connections would be, I don't think there are other connections, honestly. So we have to look at the outer planets now. And of course, the loudest one is the conjunction with the moon and Pluto. And Pluto is 54 minutes, less than a degree away from entering back into Capricorn, where it will stay at 29 degrees of Capricorn until, I believe, November, when it will then station and move back into Aquarius for the next 20 years. So it's finishing up. And again, we have that closing semi-square of Jupiter, the idea of justice from the 11th house of who's making the decisions here, who's writing the rules. Another idea of completion, going back to dig up all the dirt. And it's like you're, what do they call it in construction when you have a blue list or something like that, where a punch list, that's it. When the construction is pretty much done, but there's a punch list of, but you left the caulking on that out, and there's a paint spill over here, and believe me, I know this because this is what I'm going through right now in my house. So you have a punch list to check off, make sure all of those little things get addressed. And that's what I get the feeling for this Pluto going back into Capricorn. And this new moon is illuminating what needs to be, what needs Pluto to come back in and check that punch list. In the 7th house of others, because it's within 5 degrees here of government of the people. The Aquarius is of the people, working together for a common good. It's not about like Leo is, you know, self-creative expression, where this is about me, spotlight on me. Aquarius is all of the me's coming together to become a we and working together for a good that you may not even benefit from, but the group will benefit from. So that's where we're headed. But we've got to get through this last bit of Capricorn. And so when I'm looking at this, and with everything that's been going on, i.e. the events of Saturday, and all the fog or uncertainty or lack of focus on things that seem to be important in regards to that whole thing, I started thinking about, like, what could all of this mean exactly? Like, whose decision was that? And it seems to me, sorry, hang on. Okay, so speaking of that punch list, I just had to deal with another punch list item. So in thinking about everything that happened on Saturday and who would be behind that, because if you listen to Ellie Dreams Down Under, and if you listen to Susan Lynn, it does seem that it wasn't a solo person, and that they were put up to this. So there was a plan, and 45 was unaware, or that is my take, and I think Ellie agrees, and I'm not 100% sure if Susan agrees that he was unaware or not, but he seemed genuinely in shock. So goodness, now the dogs are going to be barking again. But so I had a conversation with my boss. Oh my goodness, hang on. My kids. August. Stop. I had a conversation with my boss, asking him what his opinion was of all of this, and I kind of got gaslit a little bit, and it bothered me. But he mentioned watching Hillbilly Elegy, and so I did, and it presents JD Vance as a empathetic character, or that you can have empathy for him, sympathy for him, positive emotions towards somebody who's pulled himself up by his bootstraps. But when I discussed this with my boyfriend, he was like, poor abused son of an alcoholic pulls himself up by the bootstraps and makes millions working for, and I'm not gonna, okay, Peter Thiel. Thiel is a former Elon Musk partner in PayPal. That is amazing to me, that connection, considering now we're talking about Elon Musk having purchased Twitter for the sole purpose of controlling the narrative. My comment was, we are so screwed. So Thiel bought Vance's way into the Senate with an over $15 million campaign donation. Thiel introduced Vance to Trump and secured Trump's endorsement. Thiel was an advisor to Trump in the 2016, helping to suggest cabinet posts and high-level administration employees. So Thiel gave generously to Trump, advising him on who to hire, introduced him to Vance, almost single-handedly financed Vance in his first and only elected office, and now is the VP pick. Manchurian candidate much? And then there's, he sent me 2 links. Peter Thiel plays Kingmaker, again, as Trump picks JD Vance for Veep. That's from Business Insider. And then from Fortune, venture capitalist gets one of their own with Trump's VP pick. What to know about JD Vance's VC career. And then with JD Vance as VP, Peter Thiel would finally have Trump right where he wants him. So we don't have a birth time for Peter Thiel. So this is just for noon. But I'm going to put it to the full moon calendar because we do have the time for the full moon calendar, for the full moon chart. And then I'm just looking at different connections. We've got, that's a wide opposition there. Mars is connecting though in a sextile. This moon, so it can go 6 degrees back or it can go 6 degrees forward because this is at 12 noon. But look at it at being at noon being 29 degrees. 29 degrees of Capricorn. So we already know if we put in a bi-wheel with the full moon in the middle and put Peter Thiel on the outside, we can see that his moon is within 6 degrees of this full moon and Pluto. Okay, so now if we think about, I'm getting something, wow, something about that, the energy just buzzed me. If we think about it being beyond the 29, so if he was born later in the day, then his moon would be in the early degrees of Aquarius, and so Pluto has already touched it or possibly will be touching it in the future, depending on how far into it, like up to 5 degrees Aquarius. If he was born from midnight until noon, then Pluto has already gone over his moon. So I kind of think that it's a little bit later. It could be at this 29 degrees, but I'm thinking just with the timing of things, I think it's very close to this. Like it could be 28, but it's either 29 or up to 1 or 2 degrees of Aquarius, because I think that Pluto is in the process of dealing with this moon. Now we also have Saturn. The North Node is coming down onto his Saturn. So the North Node, because this is, think of this chart, the inner chart is the movable chart. The outer chart is the stationary chart, right? Because the moon, this is a chart for the full moon, but it is current transits, whereas the outer wheel is stationary. So it's kind of, it's not the way you normally do things, but that's why I'm just looking at it because I don't have a time chart for him. So the things that are happening, all of his energy is here at the base of the chart. I mean, his power and his sun is down here, like right on the IC, the very foundation of this full moon, of what's happening, the zeitgeist right now. All of his energy is down here except for his Saturn and that moon. That's right on the other. So the things, this is very interesting, being in the 3rd house messaging, communication, partnership with Elon Musk with Twitter. He wasn't with Twitter, it was with PayPal, but there's, I'm sure, I don't know. Are they friends? Do they speak still? Would we know if they did or didn't? This Jupiter at the final degrees of Leo is in a quincunx. It's not seeing that moon. It's not seeing this full moon. So it's like justice is hidden. He's like behind the scenes with his justice, just like I thought about up here. It's like, who's pulling the strings? And it's conjunct Mercury, which is, media. So I just feel like this is this is one more card to put in the pile to consider who's behind the scenes, who's running the show, who's calling the shots, literally, right? Figuratively and literally. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. I hope you enjoyed this little video, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.